Hello everybody, my name is Israel Rivera Sosa, and today I'm going to be introducing cloud computing to small businesses. Today I'm going to be representing Nimbus Cloud Consulting. We specialize in introducing cloud computing needs and solutions tailored to the needs of small businesses. The goal of this presentation is to introduce and provide a clear understanding of cloud computing and its operations and its efficiency to the small businesses. Cloud concepts. Many wonder what is cloud computing. What is cloud computing? Many people think that it's maybe can relate it to iCloud, and they only think that cloud is only able to record or store videos, games, or maybe pictures. But cloud computing is able to do so much more, right? It's able to deliver computing services like servers, databases, networking. There's so many things that it can do. It can analyze data, right? It's able to do so many things in just one, and it's able to do it via the internet or the cloud, right? An example that I always like to bring up is imagine having a scalable, secure storage system without the need for expensive hardware. With AWS, your service S3 service, you're able to utilize and able to create a static websites without the need for a hardware, right? You don't need to have a server running and go out of your way to spend a lot of money in a server just for a website. You're able to host it in their service effortlessly, right? And there's no mistakes in this, right? If you make one website and you're like, oh, I think I don't like this website, you can take it out, you can move it, you can customize it, you can configure it however you want with literally no problem. AWS Global Infrastructure. AWS Global Infrastructure is very wide known globally, and they're known to operate globally, providing availability zones to ensure reliability and scalability for businesses. For instance, I always like to bring up this real life example. Imagine a business that can host a website in multiple availability zones, right? To minimize downtime. By doing this, you're literally blocking that downtime that you have in between your updating of it, right? If you minimize the downtime, you lose less money because you're able to manage different availability zones that AWS provides. Cloud economics and billing. This is a big thing, right? Because every business, the first thing that they look at is either revenue, how much money you're making as a business, how much money you're saving, and how much money you're burning, right? With cloud computing, you're able to utilize AWS to pay as you go. They have this model and allows businesses to only pay for the resources they use. So in order to if you use the service, you're gonna be saving money because they have this very important tool that I always like to bring up, and it's always very important when you're trying to set up your system. Is a AWS pricing calculator. It's a fantastic tool you can use to estimate your costs and choose the cost efficient solutions. So that means that if let's say you're utilizing your small business starting, you don't need a lot of features, a lot of tools because you're only starting up and you're only trying to figure it out, right? If you're only starting up and you're only trying to figure out, then you would choose the tools that you would like to use. You don't have to pick the whole thing. You can just pick, if you're only going to use 30% of it, you pick 30% of it, you pay for that 30%. This avoids the need for going out there, getting a server, getting a storage server, getting a workstation, getting a monitor, getting the keyboard mouse. You need the person that knows how to deal with that when you're not there. It's a lot of cost that maybe can round up to like maybe 350K in the whole system. And you also need to be worrying about where is it going to be located, how secure is that place. These are expensive hardware pieces. So cloud computing avoids all of this by creating this pricing calculator to help you figure out what is good for you, right? Cloud security. Security is a big thing when we're talking about a system, a app, a website. All of this you need to have security. especially if you're dedicating your small businesses to establish you're selling a product where a user comes in and buys your product or buys your solution, buy whatever you want, right? They're basically they're giving you data by giving you a credit card, by giving you access to their PayPal, whatever is it going through, whatever type of payment method is going through. You need to have a security set in place because you want to have that customer rely on you to keep that confidentiality, right? Cloud computing offers that, right? Security is a very top priority for AWS. They have features like identity and access management, right? To control who can access your data. An example that I like to bring up when it comes into security is, let's say you have a small business that you have maybe like 5 employees, right? You don't want the 5 employees to access your data. You don't want the 5 employees to be able to access your user data. You only want maybe one or two, right? Your supervisor, maybe your manager. With IAM, you're able to set up a security in place so that only certain people, certain employees is able to access that confidential data, right? This is done by using IAM. You can set up permissions. You can set up you can customize it however you want. If you want them to access a certain data point, right? And in that data tree, you'd only want them to access two data pieces in that data tree. You can do that via IAM, which is an amazing AWS tool. Networking and content delivery. Networking is very important when it comes to anything in IT and in tech, right? Because like, how do systems communicate each other via the internet, right? How are we able to send data and then receive that packet back, right? Networking is in everything. Now, cloud computing has its own little feature about that too, which is very specific to them. AWS provides something called virtual private clouds, right? This is for secure networking and tools like Amazon CloudFront for content delivery. So they utilize different tools in order to do different things. CloudFront is used to deliver the content, and VPC, it's used for a secure networking. And this is very important because you don't need to be a networking savvy person. You don't need to have a networking cert in order to troubleshoot or configure this. It's basically so easy to do that anybody can jump in and do it. You don't need to have a very big understanding of networks. You don't need to know a lot of things in order to configure this. Anybody can jump in and do it. That's what makes cloud computing so efficient and so much better than having to do everything the old school way. The compute services. Like I mentioned at the start, cloud computing offers different compute services. They're able to offer you server hosting and serverless services. AWS use these tools, these different tools. If you want to scale a server hosting, you would use EC2 for it, right? And if you want to have a serverless computing service, you would use AWS Lambda. A real life use case that I like to bring up. Let's bring up let's say a bakery, right? A bakery could use AWS Lambda if they want to process online orders automatically. This would save them time and resources because if you're able to receive their orders online automatically, you don't need to have an employee picking up the phone and receiving calls and logging them in for the people in the back to do, or logging it into a notebook that can get lost. You know, like it makes it so much efficient and so much safer for a business to have this in place, and it can save them money. It can save them a employee's wage by just paying for the service. Databases. Databases is Databases are very important when it comes to a system. Databases help you rely on your content, on what are you storing, right? Where are you going to store it? Well, cloud computing offers via AWS offers various database services. Very wide known one actually. You have relation databases like Amazon's RDS, and you have no SQL databases like DynamoDB. A practical example that I like to bring up for databases is for a small retail business, a well-structured database can efficiently track inventory and sales. Because let's say you own a store that sells a product, right? This e-commerce store, it sells this type of product, right? In order to for me to know what am I going to put in the main page, or what am I going to add that little small discount so that people can see it and it can be more of an eye candy, I would need to access my database, right? By doing AWS databases, you're able to go in online and you're able to like online and access it, because you're able to go into a you're able to go into you're able to go into the database and ensure that you're accessing the right database, and you're able to look at the correct database and able to analyze it. From there, you're able to see what product you're gonna set up in your front of the store by accessing your database and analyze it. Cloud computing is able to do all of this. That means you don't need to go out there and get a software to analyze your database, right? You would do it all in one using AWS tools. Storage is very big, because AWS provides something called Elastic Block Storage, a store, EBS for short, for high performance storage solutions. This means that if you have a business that relies on critical data to ensure a correct retrieval and reliability, you can utilize EBS to do so, right? You're able to pull data that is critical for your store. You can pull it fast, efficient, without going down. Cloud architecture. Cloud architecture involves designing a system that maximizes AWS features for efficiency and scalability, right? At the end of the day, cloud is built for efficiency. How can we make everything more efficient and less expensive in order to improve the chances of a small businesses becoming a success story, right? A good highlight that I like to bring up is auto healing applications. These applications means applications that have to load data constantly. If you have to load data constantly, cloud computing is the best thing for you, because you're able to do this efficiently and without any downtime. You don't have to worry about servers going down, none of that. You don't have to worry about hardware issues. You don't have to worry about oh, I forgot to plug in my UPS into the server. Now we have a power outage and now my system is crashed. You don't have to worry about none of that, none of those issues, or worry about, oh, I did not replace my UPS battery. Now my system is down because I forgot this simple thing, right? Because a small business owner, you're going through a lot of things in your mind. You have so many different things that you have to manage. So removing that small little detail, it can help so much in the long run. Auto scaling and monitoring. Like I mentioned before, AWS has tools like CloudWatch and auto scaling, which help a small business scale in ways that you cannot imagine, right? And you're able to manage fluctuating workloads. Like we just went through Black Friday, right? Many e-commerce stores were ready for it. But you as a small business, let's say you're starting a small business and you're getting some traction, right? And you decide that this is your first Black Friday after getting a big portion of traction throughout the year, and you're really not sure if you're gonna sell that much, but you put in a discount, right, on your most popular items in the store. You get a very traffic spike in your e-commerce store. Now your server is not able to manage it because you're getting a very high fluctuating traffic in Black Friday. So now your system is kind of lagging, right? You're having that lagging in the system. You're losing people because let's say if a person puts something in the cart and they're not able to check out, they're just gonna move on to the next thing, right? Because there's so many deals. You're competing with a bunch of different stores, right? And by removing that lag, you're by utilizing cloud computing, you remove that lag. You no longer have that worry about, oh, is my system gonna be able to sustain a big traffic spike? No, with cloud computing, you're able to do that all in the system. It's able to scale and auto scale and you don't have to worry about, oh, is my system going to be able to manage it. I talked about a bunch of different points in mentioning how cloud computing it's the way to go for small businesses, but I would like to point out these, go over four of them again. I mentioned cost saving, sorry, cost saving. Like I mentioned, you pay for it. You could utilize your AWS pricing tool in order to pricing calculator tool in order to see what are you going for? What are you going for? How much you want to spend? Uh, it also, I have to note that they have the pay as you go system, so you don't have to worry about committing to a big purchase in order to have a system running. Scalability. I just mentioned, like I said, scalability. It's very important. Any type of traffic spike, or not even traffic spike. Let's say you're a small business and you're getting reaching a point where you wanna level up into a little bit more because you're getting more traffic. So you're adding more stuff into your inventory, you're adding more things, more features into your app, more features into your website. You need to scale. Well, cloud computing makes it more easy, more efficient to scale. Security, like I mentioned, they use the state of the art. We're talking about Amazon here, and we're not talking about a small company. Amazon is the main provider for this type of tool, and they are known to be very, very, very good with their security. So you don't have to worry about your system being hacked. You don't have to worry about your system being tracked down. None of that. You don't have to worry about your users. None of that. Global reach. AWS, like I mentioned, is Amazon. Amazon has a global reach throughout the whole world, meaning that if you have a business that you're operating in the US and you decide to move to Europe, you don't have to worry about that because everything is connected. It's globally connected and it's globally known. So you're not worried, you should not be worried about utilizing a system that is not known by nobody. This is a system that is very wide known. It's owned by Amazon, so you should not be worried about getting discontinued or losing your data because of some rogue hacker, none of that, because you're relying on a very global company to sustain your data and system. I always like to finish off with this cloud computing success story called Netflix. Netflix started off as this hardware, DVD, Blu-ray based company, right? They started uh, trying to sell their movies or rent their movies, sorry, and provide a customer a service in which they can do it in their own, right? But they reached a point where they were one of the first companies to be like utilize cloud computing to their advantage. They saw the potential in it and how it would increase their cost efficiency percentage and also their revenue percentage. There's different key success factors to this, right? By using cloud computing, they were able to scale and reach a global and I mean, able to get a global reach, right? To leverage AWS to dynamically scale services, ensuring uninterrupted streaming during high demand periods. Like I mentioned before, during those traffic spikes, it's hard to maintain a server. That's why every time a game, like a video game releases, and they go through that spike, it's because they rely on servers, right? Servers are not as reliable as cloud computing. When you get a big traffic spike, you can do everything you can to prepare for a servers outage. But really, you don't know because you don't know how many people or how much percentage is it gonna take out of your server. It's really hard to predict. So with cloud computing and able to dynamically scale stuff like scale services, you're able to not worry about that. Because when Netflix throws in a new show, like uh, let's say they pull out a new Netflix original, they don't expect that Netflix original to uh, blow up. But if it does, let's say Stranger Things. Stranger Things started off as this very indie, TV show, and it became sensational, right? But they did not expect that. They got a traffic spike after a couple months of people noticing it. But they were able to maintain the service up and running because they're using a globally known cloud computing tool like AWS is to scale it dynamically. Another thing that I love about it is the data analytics portion, because AWS helps you analyze data. Like I mentioned before, you have your databases as well in AWS. So in order to look at your database, you're able to analyze it as well in it. You don't have to go out there and get a software to analyze this, right? You don't need to go out and get none of that because it's already in it. It will pull data out of it. You can utilize SQL to pull data in it. And by doing that, you're able to see it in a pie chart and any type of data chart that you want to do, you can do it in there. And you're able to see what is it that your users are looking at, what is it that the users are not, and able to like present them in a way that you get more traffic into it. This is what Netflix did. And I found out actually that 80% of the content watched is actually from the recommended section, meaning that all of their traffic, it's basically flowing through every user's personalized recommended portion in Netflix, which is fascinating to me. As well as the cost efficient. This is another point, cost efficiency, because as a small business, especially, you want to save money because you're starting off and you need to be able to save money, right? This is what all businesses look at first, right? How much is your revenue? How much money are you burning? And how much actually money is going through, right? With AWS and cloud computing, you're able to adopt a pay as you go, like I mentioned, so you don't have to worry about this. You reduce the infrastructure cost, and you can reinvest it in something else. Like Netflix did, they did the same thing. They reduced infrastructure costs, meaning that they reduced their office labor, and they invested that money that was going into their Netflix originals. And if you actually look up a lot of their Netflix originals are actually hits. They actually made a good portion of success in a lot of them. So this has proven that it's actually very efficient and very important for your business. Reliability. Reliability is, like I mentioned it before too, is very important. But they were able to utilize AWS global availability zones in order to never have downtime. And I don't know if you noticed, but every time you go to Netflix, it's never down. It's always up, and this is why. Because they're able to utilize the availability zones so that they never have a downtime and never lose customers to another streaming service. Now, this is my call to action. If you're a small business owner, I think it's time for you to consider how cloud computing is able to help you transform your business into a very bigger business, right? If you want to know a little bit more, you can contact me at Nimbus Cloud Computing Consulting to schedule a consultation. I am happy to help. I'm happy to provide you with anything that you need in order to understand this important system and how efficient and how much it can help you reach your goals. Thank you for your time.